Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you all today. You know it's Sunday when you turn on your computer and this guy or your phone to watch the podcast, and this guy's on there. My dear buddy, longtime friend, dear friend, the editor and publisher of the spun.com, the best sports aggregate site where sports meets pop culture, really in the country. I read it every single day. I think it's hilarious. It just makes me laugh. And then here's the best part. We've been friends for a long, long time. I mean, my kid calls him uncle. And we've been all over the country, literally with each other at different places. And I will read stuff and I'll be like, I can't believe Matt wrote that, or I can't believe Matt saw that. And I just crack up, makes me laugh. The great Matt Halatic. Matt, good to have you here, bud. Yep. Did I lose you, Matt?
Always a pleasure to be on with you. And we're getting to a critical part of the offseason. It's draft time.
I know. The dynamics of the draft, the complexities of the NFL draft are so fascinating. So let's get right to it. We're going to talk, we're going all in on the draft today. Okay. So we're going to get to your G Men because they got a lot of people wondering. Now, listen, no offense, but it's not like the G Men have a pattern of excellence. So anytime they do something, you literally have to almost always ask, how are they going to screw it up? Now, don't get me wrong for a minute. I think they've done some really good things, but you look at Saquon being somewhere else, you look at the Daniel Jones pick, I mean, the contract, it just when they seem to get it going off a high center. So we're going to get to them in a minute before we get to the Raiders. But let's get right to this. We're starting with the Tennessee Titans. This is not Hondo opinion. This is just what I believe is going to happen. They have a tradition of picking quarterbacks, seems like every other year in the first round, and they don't pan out. At some point, you think they would look at the organization, but they don't do that because that takes introspection. Uh, I don't think anyone doubts Cam Ward's the best quarterback in this class right now. Some think Jackson Dart, some think Shador, some think Quinn, some think Will Howard, whatever. You never know. You can't judge it for 3 years. But at this point today, when you talk about dynamics based upon their history of bad drafting, do you see any chance of Cam Ward getting past Tennessee at one? I don't think he's the best player. I'm not
I
even
think they're
saying that's
going.
just the best quarterback.
No, he's the best quarterback, and I think he's going one. There was, a period of time I thought that they were looking to trade out of that pick. The Giants were definitely looking to move up. I'm sure there's some other teams lurking too. But I think that looking through the process now and having seen Cam Ward go through it and looking at what their other options were, I think they want a shot with him. Brian Callahan's in his going into his second season. Obviously, they were 3-14 last year. Um, you don't get a long leash in the NFL. So I think the quickest way for him to kind of show that progress and show that there's a future is if they take a quarterback early and they have some success with them. Success doesn't necessarily mean going from 3 wins to 11 or 12 like Jaden Daniels did with Washington, but it could mean, showing you have something to build on and improving. So I think they're going to go with Cam Ward 1, and then there's some intrigue about what the Browns do at 2, because that's when things can start to get interesting.
So let's talk about the Browns. I'm just curious. They've got all that money wrapped up into Deshaun, and they're not getting out of it. They're just not getting out of it. Tell me again, the fact that either one of these teams are considering anyone not named Abdul Carter is just beyond pathetic to me. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think the Browns do it too? The funny part is everybody around the league I talk to thinks Tennessee gets Cam, And every one of them laugh and say, and it would be just like Cleveland to take Shador. What do you think they do?
Well, if you look at their quarterback depth chart right now, it's pretty barren. They traded for Kenny Pickett, who maybe you're hoping could have maybe revived his career a little bit in Philly, but it doesn't look like a starter when he played in Pittsburgh. Looks like a guy who's going to be in the league a long time, backup, spot starter type, but you're not going to entrust your franchise to him. And then the other guy they have is Deshaun Watson, who's blown his Achilles out twice in a span of 3 months or whatever it was, is played poorly before that even happened, and has probably the worst contract in the history of the NFL. So they don't really have a good quarterback situation. And I don't think you can rely on Deshaun Watson to even be healthy to play or what he'll look like this year. But like you said, they can't get out of that deal. They could rework it, which they've done. They've created some additional cap space with it, so they have flexibility to sign other guys, but they got to pay him. So you can't even necessarily reap the benefits of a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract. Where you would say, okay, we're starting over. We can get a Shador Sanders for 4 or 5 years for cheap and build up the rest of our roster around him. You still have all that Deshaun Watson money. But right now, I don't know what the Browns will do because they don't have a really good quarterback situation. I think here's my prediction. If they make a move for Kirk Cousins, or they do, then you're going with Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 2. And I think even if they sign another vet between now and the draft, whether that vet is like a Carson Wentz or bring back Joe Flacco, someone like that, they're probably not going quarterback at 2. But I think if they don't do anything else with their quarterback depth chart, there's a good chance they take Shador, just seeming like it. Or take a quarterback. I can't say for sure that he'd be the guy they want, but I would assume it would be him.
I've heard they really like Jackson Dart too. Okay, let's go with 3 with your, excuse me, that's not true. I heard your G-men really like Jackson Dart. I apologize. Let's go to the G-men. There would be nothing more Giants of them than to go and get Russell and, to go get and accumulate quarterbacks like they have, veterans. If they had not signed the latest veteran, Russell, I would have thought they were going to take Jackson. That was the feel around the NFL, was that they were going to take Jackson Dart at 3 if it went Cam Shador like that. Now there's some intrigue. If they let Abdul Carter go here, they just need to just fire everyone, including the owner. I I was talking to Shannon and I were at dinner last night, and we're talking with some NFL people. And the guy looked at us and goes, every team that doesn't pick Abdul, he goes, just needs to be fired. And I go, do you think he's that good? He goes, he's a dude. He goes, I know of other dudes that I would have picked ahead of him, but he's the only dude. And if this guy keeps dropping at arguably the 3rd most important position in football, it's the quarterback. And then if he's right-handed, the left tackle. If he's left-handed, it's the right tackle. He said, and then the edge. He goes, but he goes, if I'm the Giants, I'm taking Abdul. I need that edge presence. He goes, or I'm taking Will Campbell. He goes, but what do you think they do, Matt? You're the G-men guy.
Well, I would also throw Travis Hunter in that mix. I think he would be worthy of that area because he gives them another option at corner, and you completely remake your defensive backfield in one offseason, and he can be a weapon on offense. So if they took Travis Hunter at 3, I wouldn't be complaining. To me,
I agree with you, by the way. I agree.
To me, I think that going into the offseason, as a fan, what I wanted them to do was to sign a vet or two, like a stopgap type guy, and go look for their quarterback of the future in 2026 when there's going to be a deeper quarterback draft. At least it seems that way. But I didn't expect it to happen because this regime is on its last legs and they are desperate. But I am not sure what to make of the Russell Wilson signing because if you look at it from, at first glance, my first thought was, well, they signed Jameis, they signed Russell. They know they're not getting Cam Ward. They can't trade up, and the Titans are taking him. They don't love taking another quarterback at 3, so this is their kind of way to like fireproof against that, where they won't they get too desperate. However, I can't see a situation, and every guy who covers the team or woman who covers the team on a granular level that is involved day to day has said they're drafting a quarterback at some point in April. I can't see a scenario where they went into meeting. I'm talking about Joe Shane and Brian Dable, where they talked to John Mara in the offseason and tried to sell him on a plan and didn't mention we're drafting a quarterback of the future. So to me, that means, are you going to take somebody at 3? Now, I think if Cam and Shador go 1-2, I think the worst thing to do would be to panic and take a Jackson Dart at 3. I would, if you really are sold on Jackson Dart, I would try to see even if you could move down a couple of spots to a team that really wants an Abdul Carter or a Travis Hunter, at least get an asset or two added on, and then take Jackson Dart. But I don't know what the Giants are going to do, because I don't know what that move signified. Russell Wilson said, listen, I'm coming to be a starter. And knowing his history, he's coming in to be a starter. Does he know that he could get benched at some point later in the year? Sure. It happened in Denver in his second season. Right. But he's not coming in to be a caretaker. Like when the last year with the Patriots, Jacoby Brissett knew he was starting the year as the starter. It was a matter of time till Drake May came in. And that's what happened. I don't see that with Russell Wilson. So I don't know. It's very fascinating to me.
What do you think they do? You make the call.
I honestly think, gun to my head, they take a quarterback, because I think, like you said, it would just be par for the course for what they've done the last decade, which is kind of just.
So you have them taking Jackson Dart at 3.
Or Shador. I have them taking a quarterback at 3, depending on.
Okay, my point is, though, if we, because you said Shador to Cleveland.
Yeah.
So then they take.
I could see
a lot of people, before the Russell Wilson signing, I've been hinting at this in the podcast. A lot of people think there could be 3 quarterbacks, and that was the NFL. Now people are unsure. Okay, so there's the first 3.
Yeah.
If that scenario plays out, Mike Vrabel is sipping mimosas and handing out, little appetizers, those little hot dogs that you have to eat 5,000 of them to get full.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, he's going to be celebrating. Does he take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? I think that's going to be very hard for him. He's a defensive guy, but what do you think he does? He loves Travis Hunter, but what do you think he does?
Here's the thing with Travis Hunter. Obviously, I don't know how Vrabel, the Patriots, view him either as a corner or receiver, but if you take Travis Hunter and you play him at corner, you have a potential lockdown corner with Christian Gonzalez. You could have one of the best tandems in the league. And you would get a guy who can be dynamic if you use him offensively with Drake May. So that would be so tempting. But Mike Vrabel, being a pass rusher when he played, being a defensive guy, probably would love to have Abdul Carter. But let me just say this. If that's how the scenario plays out with quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, and you have Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter going 4-5 in some order to New England and Jacksonville, whatever, that's crazy. And if you ever had a scenario where Jacksonville took somebody else or whatever, and one of them made it to 6 with the Raiders, that would be even wilder. I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be insane.
It would be insane.
Yeah.
All right. So who do you have New England taking?
For the sake of this, I'll say Travis Hunter, but I could really see either way. Just for the sake of right now,
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So does Jacksonville run Abdul Carter to 5?
They do. I know they want to get offensive guys for Trevor Lawrence. I know Liam Cohen's an offensive coach. But when you get a player that caliber fall to you at 5, you can't pass it up. He's a potential impact player. I think they just run up and grab him.
I don't think you can pass him up in this draft anywhere.
No, I agree.
Right. So then we come to the Raiders. What do you think the Raiders do at 6? I believe it. Just tell me what you think the Raiders do at 6.
Well, for a while, they were mocked to get Ashton Genty because they figured he would be kind of the big play home run running back there. Um, but I mean, listen, they lost some pieces on defense this offseason. So I could, they could look to kind of supplement their defense. Or now you're starting to get into a point where the offensive linemen start to come into play. And you can never go wrong,
Will Campbell,
Will Campbell looking for guys along Mason
Mason
Graham.
Graham,
That's obviously.
Ashton Genty, Jalen Walker.
I would probably, if I were the Raiders, I would look at either a Walker or a Mason Graham to kind of really get an impact player on defense. But there's a number of different directions where they could go, and you could be fine with the pick and understand, where they're coming from.
Who do the Raiders pick?
I'll say Mason Graham.
Wow. All right. Interesting pick. So here's the thing. I have been saying this. The most important position in football is the quarterback. This is the worst class since 22. And I think it's worse than 22 and going back even farther. But and NFL people all universally say that. But yet it's probably the deepest draft in a long time. There's going to be starters picked in the 5th round. And then when you find so many bad drafting teams, it just makes it even more intriguing. Have you been more, and I don't even mean as a Giants fan, I'm just as a guy that loves football, as an NFL writer. I am jacked up about this draft, and I don't know that I've been this jacked up for a draft ever. My mom heard me say that the other day, and this is what I love about my mother.
Uh-huh.
She's in her late 80s. Son, do you remember the year the Lions took Barry Sanders? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, do you remember what you were like the night before the draft? You begged Dad and I, can I skip church so I can stay home and watch the entire rest of the draft? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you were pretty excited about that. Okay, so in deference to my mother, God bless you, Mom. I love you. Thanks for watching the podcast. I had no idea she watched the podcast either. So I don't remember that far back. But it may be the case. But I don't remember being as jacked up for a draft just as a football guy as this one. Have you ever been?
I'm trying to think of specific examples. I do think that I don't know. I would probably say yes off the top of my head because I'm not like insanely jacked up about this. I'm always intrigued by the draft. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think when your team's picking up near the top, which the Giants have been for a decade plus, basically, it makes it more interesting. But it also makes it you get a little nervous about what they're going to do, how they might screw it up. But I think it'll be interesting to see how I do agree with you that how the first round plays out. What fascinates me is how many quarterbacks go. Because I think that we have really started to see, with the exception of 2022, when it was only Kenny Pickett, you're really starting to see every year 4, 5, last year 6 quarterbacks going early on, even in classes that are not viewed as deep quarterback classes. So, which this one isn't, but it's expected that 2 guys are going to be definite first-round picks, including Cam Ward, 1 overall. And everyone's saying Jackson Dart's now in the first round, so that's 3. People are talking about a Milroe or Quinn Ewers or someone like that working their way into the back half of it. So that's what I'm excited to see is the quarterback position, how teams kind of address it, because I think there's always a difference between what the NFL decision makers think about these quarterbacks and what we as fans or people that cover the game think about them.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating. I love the dynamics of the NFL draft. Matt, next week, I'll be talking to you from the beach in Cabo.
That's a heck of a place to be doing a radio show or a podcast. I have to say that.
But I'll be in Cabo with you because I don't take any days off. We go, go, go.
No,
So
especially on
next
this
week,
time of the year. This is
yeah.
big time.
So next week, I will make sure that I am not in my bathing suit, but I will be covered. But we will be doing the podcast. All right, brother. I may be doing it from the back of a deep sea fishing boat, but I'll be doing the podcast with you next week. And next year, I got to take you to Cabo with me. Is that a deal? Will you
I
go with me?
appreciate it.
My,
Yeah.
I'm serious. Next year, I will pay your way, your airfare, everything. Will you go with me to Cabo next year?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, you're in. I'm going to make you go. Don't you bail out on me.
All right, buddy. I'm ready.
All right, buddy. I'm being sincere. Matt, tell everybody where to find you on social media.
You can find me at Matt Haladik 919 at MATTHLADIK 919 on X / Twitter, whatever you call it. And that's where I'm at. I've had a lot of Raiders fans join up over the last couple of weeks. So come see me, come talk some ball.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Bye-bye.